Greetings, friend. This is an advanced Sudoku tutorial where I'm going to break down the strategy known as a Sudoku. I'm going to give you all the definitions you need to know, expert tips, tricks on how to spot these in a puzzle, and then my technique on how to solve these using 3 specific examples. This is such an advanced strategy that the last example you will not find anywhere else on YouTube, but you really need to understand it if you want to fully grasp the idea of Sudoku and how they work. So you can stick around and watch the whole video. Click on a link below for the links to all the videos and puzzles that I'm showing. And with that, it's solving time. Okay, so this is our first example, and I've filled out just the candidates we need to consider and highlighted for this Sudoku. So first, I got to start with the actual definition. Okay, it's a little complex. That's why I'm going to break it down for you. But a Sudoku, it's named after the person who found this. It's a French person. And the definition is it's a subset in which the candidates are split into 2 houses, allowing you to make specific eliminations in each house. It's also a type of a 2-sector disjoint subset. And I know that's a lot of words, right? So I'll break it down for you. I've dealt with almost locked sets and how you can put them together to make eliminations. It's similar to that, but the candidates required are different and the eliminations you make are different. But it's also very powerful and it will come up on puzzles. And so it's important to see this and understand what it means. So here we go. The way you spot a Sudoku. This first example is from Tallcat's puzzle called Venture 3, and this is a 4-candidate Sudoku. And so look at these 2 purple candidates right here. You'll notice that they have 2 different cells, 4 candidates. So you're going to have, in a 4-candidate Sudoku, you're going to have 2 cells, and you'll have basically 2 extra candidates. And so an almost locked set would be 1 additional candidate. So this first thing you're going to look for is an almost locked set. So it's 2 more candidates in the cells in there. Now, the next thing you need to look for is you need to look for actually an almost locked set of 2 of these candidates in the row or column that's coming out of it. So in this case, you look across here and you'll notice of a 2, 3, 4, 6, we have a 2 and a 4 right there. Okay, it's important. Normally it'll be a by cell, and I'll call it by cell, but the distinction here is that this 2, 4 is actually an almost locked set. It's an ALS because it's 2 candidates in 1 cell. All right, and this is going to be important later for my last example. For now, you just need to know by cell, BVC. Then there's 2 other candidates, so the 3 and the 6 need to be in a by cell within the block. So if you look right here, you notice, hey, the 3 and 6 are right there. What's the critical thing to understand with a Sudoku is that this by cell cannot contain the same candidates as this one. They got to be completely separate candidates. So you got the 2, 4 here, which is 2 of these candidates, and then you have the 3, 6 here, which is 2 of these other 2 of these candidates. That is very important, and this is what makes it different than like a WXYZ wing or an almost lock set. And in fact, I recommend, if you haven't checked out my almost lock set tutorial, 1, 2, and 3, I'll put a link to that. Check that out and you'll see the difference. The big difference is how the eliminations are made and what makes up these sets, because this is not a WXYZ wing, even though it might look like it with the 4 cells and 4 candidates. It's different in how you do eliminations, and I'm about to show you that right now. So if you find this situation, this relationship, here's how it works. What you can do is you can eliminate any 2s and 4s along this row. And the basics of it is 1 of the 2 and 4 has to be in this cell. That makes sense. Well, the other 2 and the 4 has to be in one of these cells right here. And the reason being is because of this other by cell. What we know is that 1 of the 3 and 6 has to be in this cell. Well, the other one would have to be here. In order to fill all 4 cells, you have to have 1 of the 2, 4 here and 1 in the purple. You have to have 1 and 3 and 6 here and 1 in the purple. And I'm about to show you why it wouldn't, you can't, why it has to abide to those rules. So let's say you don't have either the 3 or 6 in here, right? So if I got rid of this 3 and I got rid of this 6, well, then you'd see you have 1, 2, 3 cells with only 2 candidates, 2, 4, right? So obviously you can see that why you need to have at least 1 of the 3 or 6. And you can't have both 3 and 6 in these 2 cells because then you'd have nothing to put right there, right? And so if we go back and add those candidates back in, then the same thing, if you made this a 3 and this a 3 and this a 6, you'd have nothing to put in this cell. So hopefully you understand why it has to be 1 of each, 1 in purple and 1 in the yellow for each of those pairs of bi-value cells. And this is why it's so powerful, because now you can make these eliminations across the row knowing, okay, I have a 1 of the 2 and 4 there, and I got 1 of the 2 and 4 in the purple, so I can eliminate all of the 2s and 4s from across this row. Means we can solve this cell right here for 9. So that's powerful, but we're not done. We can actually make eliminations within the block as well. So this, and the easy way to go, what can I eliminate, is just look at the, this bi-value cell out here. In this case, the 3, 6. I can eliminate all the extra 3s and 6s. And hopefully I showed you why you can make those eliminations, because one of those has to be here and then one has to be in the purple, so they cannot exist anywhere else inside this block. And if you try to fill in a 3 right here, you would break this puzzle pretty quick. So that's how it works for a 4-candidate Sudoku. And what's really cool is, stick around to the end. I got a link to another puzzle that I'm not showing in this tutorial, which shows Sudoku, very advanced. But if you go through this tutorial, you will understand and you will appreciate it. You need to check that out. I'll put the link to that at the very end. So let's move on to our next example. So for our next example, this is Alternating Rings by Yoshi Baroshi. If you look at the link, you'll say Laser Cert. It's the same. It's Yoshi Baroshi. He has an alter ego. And this is a great puzzle. Alternating rings referred to some continuous loops that went on within this puzzle, but there was a Sudoku that I solved, and it's a 5-candidate Sudoku. So the next level up from what I just showed you is this 5-candidate SDC. I'm just going to call it SDC to make it a little simpler for me. And so you can see the highlighted cells. First thing you always want to look for, do I have a row, row or column within a block that has 3 cells and then 5 candidates? So 2 plus the amount of cells I have filled out. And the answer is yes. So that's an almost log set in the purple. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Now, do I have in a BVC, or in this, an almost log set, an ALS, of 2 of these candidates outside of the block in this row? And the answer is yes. You have a 2, 4 right here, which is 2 of the candidates that are right there. And remember, even though it is a BVC, you need to think of it as an almost log set. In that third example, I'll show you why, because I want you to have complete mastery of this particular technique. Okay, now, do you have 2 other candidates from these 5 within the block in a BVC or an almost log set? And the answer is yes. So you have a 2, 4 here and you have a 6, 9 here. And you probably notice we also have an 8, right? So you got an 8. Well, this is still a good SDC. And the reason is because we have these distinct BVCs outside, and you have 1 extra candidate right there. We're going to be able to make some eliminations. This is very powerful. So this is how it works when you have 5-candidate SDC. First, what you need to understand is 1 of the 6 and 9s is going to be here, and 1 of the 6 and 9s has to be within these purple cells. Then 1 of the 2 and 4s is here, and 1 of the 2 and 4s has to be within these purple cells. Kind of like what I showed you with the 4-candidate SDC. And then, of course, that third cell has to be an 8. The candidate that's not in one of these bi-value cells has to be in here somewhere. And if not, you're going to break the puzzle. And so I'll show you, let's say we put the 8 right here. Right? We put an 8 right there. What would happen to this puzzle? Well, you can get rid of those 8s. Okay? And so you have a 2, 2, 4, 6, 9. And so what you'd see is that this would be a naked quad. All right, so you have a 2, 4, 6, 9 naked quad. 2, 4, 6, 9 couldn't be anywhere else along this row. And the problem with that is now the 6 and 9 have to fill 2 of these spots. And because the 6 and 9 has to fill 2 of these spots, it can be, it can't be here, it can't be here or here. I'll just eliminate that so it makes it easier for you to see. 2, 4, 6, and 9. And so you didn't with it. You could solve this for an 8. But all right, that's cool. I can solve that for an 8. But now 2, 4, 6, 9. Again, the 6 and 9 have to fill 2 of these spots. You'd have nothing to put in this cell right there, right? No matter how you try to figure this out, if you went, okay, that's a 4, and you get rid of the 4 right here, you'll see is now this is a 2, 6, 9 naked triple. Nothing to put there. That's why the 8 has to be in one of these purple cells, just like a 6 or 9 has to be in there, and a 2 and 4 have to be in there. So let's get back to where we're at, and we'll show how the eliminations work, right? So you logically figure all that out, and you go, how do these eliminations work? Well, you can eliminate not just a 2 and a 4 along this row and any of the cells that are not purple or yellow, but you can also eliminate an 8. Because like I said, the 8 has to be in one of these spots. So you can eliminate the 8 from right there, and then you can eliminate 2 and a 4 from this cell, and you can eliminate 2 and a 4 from this cell and an 8. So that's all legal. That's all, you can do all that. And then within the block, you can eliminate a 6, 9 from any other cell. It's not in the purple or the BVC, and you can eliminate an 8. So you can get rid of the 6, 9 right here, and you can get rid of the 6, 8, and 9 from this cell right there. And so that's very powerful. And by making all of those eliminations, we're able to actually solve for an 8 right here, because you have this 8 coming up, column 4, column 6, and then this 8 cutting across, and this can no longer be an 8. And so that's how this SDC helps us make a solve in this particular puzzle. Another thing I want to point out here before I move on to my next example is you can find out more about SDCs. There's 2 other tutorials I've watched I think I recommend to you. One's by Sudoku Swami, who is the first person I ever saw talk about this. The other one is DxSudoku. I'll put links to both of those tutorials on there. Key difference here, and if you watch them and you understand a different way, and it helps you understand it a little bit better than what I'm doing, that's great. I want you to understand this technique and strategy the best you can. But they will not talk about the next example I'm going to show you and why you need to consider this as an ALS and not just a by-value cell. So let's move on to that last example. Okay, for our third and last example for this tutorial, this is the puzzle Uncommon by Amberdot. Great, amazing puzzle, and it features an SDC that's more advanced than you'll see on any other channel on YouTube or you may have ever seen before. And I want to kind of point out how it works and why it abides and should be called a Sudoku. Before we get in the actual SDC, I do want to point something out that a lot of viewers point out when they first saw this puzzle, and that is there is a continuous loop right here with these 4 cells, and I'll highlight that. So if you look at these 4 cells, you'll notice that 4, 9, go to 9, 6, to the 6, 5, to the 5, 4, back to the 4, is a continuous loop made of by-value cells. And so you can eliminate 4s across this row, you can eliminate 5s going up the column, 6s across this row, and 9s up this column. That is a great way to solve this puzzle and make progress. And that's great. But what I want to point out is the purpose of this tutorial is to show how the Sudoku works, and maybe you'll see this differently. So yes, I admit there's a different way to solve, and maybe this is an easier way for you to spot. But I want you to understand the strategy here, so that in case it comes up, you can see the Sudoku in case there's not a continuous loop for you to as a workaround. All right, so let's go right here into this puzzle. You may not think there is an SDC along row 9, but there is. Row 9 and block 9. And it's kind of goofy here because what you'll notice is you have 2 cells with 5 different candidates. And remember, I talked about almost lock set with 3 cells and 5 candidates, or 2 cells and 4 candidates. So this is still going to turn into a Sudoku, and it's crazy how it happens. And the reason is what you have to look for outside of the row is an almost locked set, not just a by itself, an almost locked set. So the definition of almost locked set is for the number of cells you have at least one, you have one additional candidate, not at least, you have one additional candidate. So if you look right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, I have a 1, 3 right there, and I have a 1, 2, 3 right here. This is an almost locked set in the yellow. So this, because there's 3 candidates, 1, 2, and 3, in 2 cells. Okay? And are these 3 candidates in there? And the answer is yes, they are. Now, within the block, do we have another ALS? And the answer is yes. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because this ALS is a 4, 5, and a 5, 6. You know, going, Timberlake, what are you doing here? And what we're doing is we're adding another candidate. So you're adding this 5. Now, you actually have 4 cells within block 9 with 6 candidates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so it's still an almost locked set going on here. And the way you can spot this is you got this additional 5 here. So what you know is this is an almost locked set. So 3 candidates, 4, 5, 6, in 2 cells. Now, what's key here is with this 4, 5, 6 is you know that one of these cells has to contain a 4 or 6. And then the other one would have to be here, because a 5 can only be in one of those. In theory, you could have both a 4 and 6, but it's not going to work out that way. It's going to be one of a 4 and 5. One of the 4 and 6 that has to be here, and then the other one's going to be a 5, and then the other one has to be here. And then over here, you got, 2 of the 1, 2, 3 have to be here, and then the other one has to be right within the purple. And you're like, Timberlake, you're kind of making all this up. I don't think it has to be like that. Can you prove to me what you're talking about? And the answer is yes, I can prove to you. So let's do the first example. Let's say that there's no 5 in here, and we did a 4 and we did a 6. So I'll get out of the color mode. So if you did a 4 and a 6, and we'll go back and make sure this is the color nice, what would be here? You'd have a 4 here, 6 removed there, and then what do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4 cells that contain 1, 2, or 3. Can't happen. You break the puzzle. So we know it can't both be a 4 and a 6. And pretty easy to figure out that they both can't be a 5, right? So only one of those 4 and 6 can be there, otherwise we'll break the puzzle. Okay, other thing is, does the 5 have to be there? And we just proved that, yes, the 5 has to be in there because they can't be both a 4 and a 6. Great. Now let's look across here. You got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Could you get along with, having a 1, 2, 3 outside of these yellows? Like, could this be a 3, for example? And you're going to see quickly that the answer is no, right? Because if that was a 3, this would be a 1, this would be a 2, 1, 2, 3, and you get rid of the 1 and 2 there. You get rid of the 1 and 3 there. That has to be a 4. That has to be a 6. And then now you have 2 spots for a 5, right? Because you get rid of the 6 there and you get rid of the 4 there. Breaks the puzzle. So that's why we know a 3 or 1 or 2 cannot be outside those yellow cells. See how that works? Great. So we notice this pattern on the Sudoku. What does that mean for us? Well, we can eliminate, 1, 2, or 3 from any cell outside here. You cannot eliminate the 4 and 6, but you can eliminate the 1, 2, or 3. So like basically anything within this ALS you can eliminate along the row. Then within the block you can eliminate anything from this ALS. So you can eliminate the 4 and the 5 from right here, and I think I showed you why. And you can eliminate the 6 from right there. Okay, this is beautiful stuff. And so you can make all these eliminations and you move on to the puzzle. Now this becomes a pointing pair of 5s. You're going to make some progress in the puzzle that way. And then we just kind of move on with our solve. But I wanted to point that out to you. I also wanted to show you, if you did catch this continuous loop, great job. That's another great way to solve this puzzle. You need to check out this other video. If you want to get a better understanding of how SDCs work, I want to thank all the setters for letting me feature your puzzles on this channel. Also, if you want to support Smart Hobbies, join the Smart community, click on the link below and become a member. Thank you so much for watching.